Yeah. Let's talk about this really quickly. There's this thing I saw earlier. I heard Daddy Freeze earlier. He was talking about some young man was saying that compatibility is not necessary, and it was laughing, kiki, and it was like, hey, nya. I was like, and I was like, I was just scrolling through my Instagram. I was waiting for my wife in the car. She went inside the grocery for a second, and I saw this young man who was talking about Kerewa compatibility is a lie from Abyss to make young people fornicate. He's a life coach. He's a young man. He just got married less than 3 years ago or something like that. Solomon Buchi, right? So he's popular in these streets. Do me a favor. I need to start remembering. Follow me on Instagram. It's called Man of Prestige _ on Instagram. Yeah, please make sure you're following me. I want to tag Instablog Niger. I want to tag who else? A couple of people I want to be tagging. Tunde Ednot, Instablog Niger, anytime I post my shorts. So please, if I forget, just tag it in the comments. Okay, tag them in the comments, and help me share some of those short clips that I released to help us promote the platform. I appreciate you for doing that. Thank you. So, but anyway, Instablog Niger is always posting this guy and his comments, and I was like, oh, this is what Daddy Freeze was talking about. So I went in there, I started reading about one paragraph. I was like, all right, I'll read it when I just stopped. I was like, I think it'll be interesting to bring that today and read it. Okay, so, but I've seen a few of his stuff that I wanted to bring up in the past, but I kind of like, he didn't make it, but he made it to the Man of Prestige. So shout out to him, yeah. So let me see, before I go, let me see, what did you say? D said, Daddy Freeze is happy in his marriage but gives contradictory advice. Yeah, definitely. I agree with that 100%. Daddy Freeze, but the good news is that he doesn't claim to be a marriage counselor. I think Daddy Freeze is enjoying. Let me show you what Daddy Freeze is enjoying. Okay, just to make it make sense. You don't have to be able to give good advice to enjoy good marriage. I want you to understand that. Okay, you don't have to be able to know all this stuff I talk about at deep inside levels. You don't have to do that to enjoy marriage. You never have to. Don't put yourself under that kind of pressure. These things are complex. They're very complex topics. The place I've been to know what I know, you probably don't have the resource, and you do what you do, and you do it well. I do what I do it well. Okay, so thank God that the Freeze doesn't say he's a marriage counselor. I haven't seen him say that, so I'm okay with that. It's just his opinions. Right? This is what he's enjoying. Friendship. You can obviously see that between him and his girl. I don't know about the sex part, but I would hope so. Okay, but very likely they're doing well in that area. Expectations, Daddy Freeze, if you see the way he talks about this girl, there's no pressure. Okay, he spent a lot of time doing these live sessions. There's no pressure anyway. It's to me, it looks like a well-managed levels of expectations on all sides. Okay, pride and ego. Outside of Daddy Freeze cursing the maniacs, the Ekenes, and people out in his comments, Ekene APC Bishop in particular, not the other one, right? Apart from that, I've met him in person. He's not really an egotistical person like he shows. It's showmanship. A lot of it is showmanship, So, I would say if you have these 4 things under control, usually you'll be fine. Okay. Now, some of these 4 things that we're talking about here, to get to it is work. Right? For example, you're feeling some type of way, you're in your marriage, and then the person's talking about Kerewa. It's the last thing on your mind. If you're in a certain place of pain, so now you have to do the work to get into that area, to get into that space where Kerewa is flowing, and then you'll be fine. But if you can find your way to this level where expectations are managed, egos are managed, you can't eliminate ego. In fact, we need some level of pride on both sides. Sex, right? If it's well managed, meaning decent, right? Decent, yes, with respect to the society. You can't say, hey, it's just me, I'll do it only 3 months. Almost. But anyway, friendship especially is key. And I think that's what he's enjoying. If you can figure that out, you'll be fine. But anyway, let's get back. We're still talking about Solomon Buchi. Let's talk about Solomon Buchi. Yeah. He does it for shock value, right? Precisely. Yes, let me see. I'm going to read this to you. What is he saying? What is this young man saying? Okay. Now, experience and time will tell you some things that you just won't know, even if you read it in the book. I'm sorry. This is why we call it the human experience. It's particularly what makes life sweet. You need to have the experience. You need to put yourself out there and get hurt, particularly. Okay. Not because you want to get hurt, but it will happen. Okay. And it will usually happen from a blind spot, so it's not something you can really avoid for the most part. So you can mitigate, you can prevent a little bit more, you can do soft landing because you've heard Ola on metaphysics say it before. But you to go collect like the rest of us in these streets, and then you will gather wisdom, and then that's how it works. Okay, so but let me see what he's saying. He said Kerewa, sexual compatibility is a lie from abyss to make young people fornicate unendingly in their pursuit for someone who will sexually outperform their last sexual partner. Okay, let's listen all the way to the context. Let's get the context first. Okay, they end up sleeping with the whole town. What you need is sexual commitment. Okay, magic can assume. And it only exists in marriage. All right. Commitment ensures fulfillment. Hence, if you're committed to someone, you'll do anything if you're committed to someone, you do anything within reason and sentiment to please them. Okay, that caveat is a big deal. That caveat, he just had it, where he said you do anything. The part where it says within reason and sentiment. These are heavily subjective concepts. Okay, these are heavily subjective concepts. Okay, so it's like, what do you mean? Adebusola, this is the part where you say, what do you mean by within reason and sentiments? There are two people involved at any point in time. So who is measuring what is reasonable enough and what is sentiment? Right? So that caveat right there is like, I do have caveats too. Okay, so oftentimes, like, that's why it seems like I might straddle the fence sometimes. It's like, which one are you saying? Is it this one? It's a dance. It's always okay. So anyway, let's continue. Emotionally, this is the case. Sexually, it's same. What?
Everything I do, I will. So pressure to what?
Pressure to what? Okay, let me go back, see if I understand what he's saying. Commitment ensures fulfillment. Hence, I agree that commitment ensures fulfillment just generally in life. Okay, there's nothing worthwhile that you won't need commitment in life, not just marriage and sex. There's nothing worthwhile in life that you won't need a level of commitment. Yes, endurance as well. Okay, yes, but I see where he's hiding the caveat within reason and commitment. But when you go back to compatibility, right, maybe that's why they're talking about compatibility. If you go, maybe that's why people talk about compatibility, because some people are unreasonable, right, with what they demand or require in this department. But let's keep going. Sexual compatibility is the devil's buzzword. I see what you say. It's like, okay, you will just run. You just run. You say, like, if you don't have commitment, the first thing you do is you just want to run for the hills. Well, once, and then you call it compatibility. I see what he's talking about. Okay, let me be honest with you. I do question compatibility too. Okay, like, it makes me want to say, what do you mean? Like, I don't think we are most people, when they want to run away from a marriage or or when they want to exit, when they feel like they're done, right? For valid reasons. They're all valid reasons. They know what they felt. They know what they saw in that marriage. Okay. One of the English words that they pull to the table is compatibility. Okay. Well, if anybody is cursing in the chat, I beg, please remove them. Don't even bother about it. If they're cursing other people in the chat, thank you. Sexual compatibility is the devil's buzzword. Think of this. As a Christian, premarital sex is a sin. You somehow fall into it, engage in it with multiple partners, and when it's time to choose a life partner, you use what you learned through sin, fornication. Not necessarily, that's an assumption. Let's go back. He's making an assumption here. He said, think of this. As a Christian, premarital sex is a sin. You somehow fall into it, engage in it with multiple partners. Okay, sure. But yeah, they call themselves Christians, right? Okay. But they're sinners. We're all sinners, right? And when it comes to choosing a life partner, you use what you learned from sin, fornication, for ascertaining whom you marry. This is not consistent. All right, so I think it's cap. I think it's capping. Okay, maybe not intentionally, sure. I don't. The idea that you want to do kerewa with a person and you're not like comparing to another person you did kerewa with. Maybe subconsciously, some people say you can't pair bond once you've had too many. Well, the key word is too many. But the idea that I can't relate with it personally, okay? Where you just about to do kerewa with a person, though, but okay, let me compare it to Sade once upon a time. That's not the reality, okay? If you're in that space where you're about to do kerewa, you do it and that's it, okay? You might compare it indirectly somehow with your experience, I guess. But it's too nitpicking. It's like these are not the issues with marriages, and relationships is my point. Okay, the issues with marriages and relationship is people not having game. It's as simple as that. Lack of skills when it comes to interpersonal relationship. Lack of social, emotional, self, and power intelligence is the issue with marriages. This is indirectly telling people that if you have only just that one partner only in life, you will have a perfect marriage and you won't complain about compatibility. That's the assumption that this post is making. Overall, I question compatibility too. I do think if you marry that person, there's a chance that compatibility is not your issue. Okay, there are deeper issues. Okay, and everyone else will go through the same issues in one shape, form, or the other. Okay, if every time compatibility is such a vague, subjective thing, we can say it like that and leave it alone. There's no need to pull fornication, sin, the devil, abyss, and all this thing into it. It's not that we're complicating it. Right? What we need to be talking about is that once you find yourself inside of a relationship with a person, romantic relationship especially, there will be crisis and conflict. Can you handle it? Do you have the tools in place to resolve these conflicts when they show up? The conflict seemingly has nothing to do about you. It's your mother-in-law. It's your sister-in-law. It's the fault of her friends. They are teaching her all the nonsense. Can you handle this stuff? Do you have the skills, the game to handle these issues? Because these issues will show up. Even if he's washing your pata, even if he's washing the plates in the kitchen, these issues will show up. These are the issues we need to be talking about. It's either we'll go to extreme spirituality and we'll come back from the spirituality and you're asking your husband if he finally wash your pata, everything will be fine. All he needs is to wake up in the middle of the night and share 50-50. Everything will be perfect. It's a lie. It's a lie. Okay? He continues, how do you seek godly marriage? Listen, what I just said is all about godly marriage. There's no promise anywhere that once you marry as a virgin, you have very minimal one body count, that suddenly everything will be perfect. There's no such promise anywhere. Okay? How do you see godly marriage through sinful desires and acts? Not relevant. Kojo. It's not relevant, Kojo, at all. Adibusola, see you. I'll come right to you. Let me finish reading this. How do you measure a potential partner with the perversion you learned from porn? You're assuming that people learn perversion from porn. That's an assumption. Do people do? Yeah, people do learn perversion from porn, of course. But what I'm saying is that you're assuming that the people that have good marriages did not watch porn. That's what you're assuming. Okay? This has nothing to... I'm not talking about if you should watch porn or not. That's another topic. But I'm saying, pulling in all these different things into compatibility is just complicating it. If they're not compatible, they feel not compatible, you need to acknowledge that. They don't feel compatible. It's as simple as that. Well, not oversimplify, but you need to unpack that, particularly by listening to that person, but not making generalized statements. These are all generalized nonsense that's skewed by religious views. Okay, sex is important, but the sexualization of marriage and even our partners is the spirit of lust at work. Now that's BS. You need to have lots of sex with your partner. Don't let anybody demonize that with talking points or fancy English words and paragraphs. Okay, sexual compatibility says, I'm going to test you, and if you're not good enough, I'll leave you. Nope. Could make sense. It's not adding up. Okay. Let me see here. I'm going to wait till marriage. And even if you're not good enough at first, I'll stay committed because we have forever to grow in pleasing ourselves. Yeah, it does sound like a person that doesn't really have much experience. Okay. It's very true that people can get into a space. Okay. It's very true that people can get into a space where it's just dry and they might question compatibility. What we need to do is listen to them, see what they have to say, what's going on. You might just, if you listen first, then you have a chance of having a solution. If you don't listen, if you're going to assume pornography addiction, assume that they have multiple body counts from before, you can't help anyone if you make these assumptions. Sexual compatibility is impatient, and so is lust. Therefore, sexual compatibility is lust. No, he's demonizing people that feel sexually incompatible. You can't do that. It's like demonizing people that can't seem to forgive you. They're having a hard time. You can't manipulate people into forgiving you. You can't manipulate people to be compatible with you if they feel that this guy, you don't know how to. I don't feel it. It's not happening. You can't manipulate that with Bible verses or Bible talks. It doesn't work. Sexual commitment understands sex as a duty as much as... No, it's not. See? Delusion. Bad delusion. Sex as a duty as much as it is for pleasure. Nah. It's one or the other. With respect to what we're talking about in this context, it's one or the other. Okay? If the fact that we can procreate with sex is byproduct, is... Thank God. It's like, thank goodness. It's like, that's God's work right there. That's not something you decide. Because you can even do sex as duty and stuff, and God said you're not going to have children. Kiloveshi. What do you go do? It gives room for growth and a safe space for vulnerable intimacy. No. Oyibo. Stop looking for porn stars to build a godly marriage with. In fact, these defiant sexual desires are a result of disobedience to God. If we all stay sexually pure, sexually pure, what is that? This thing. Anyway, you won't go into marriage wanting 50 styles in 10 minutes or desiring 9 inches. That's an assumption that women want 9 inches. Assumptions everywhere. These are work of flesh.
Everything I do, I will. Pressure to what?
Pressure to Adebusola, pressure to Oh, you did, dear. Adebusola, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Good evening.
Hello, how you doing?
I'm fine. Can you hear me?
I can hear you clearly. Yes.
Okay. So I don't know. Can I ask you a question about something you said earlier?
Yes, please. Feel free.
Okay. So when you were talking about the person you had the discussion with in Clubhouse
Hold on,
about
hold on, hold on 1 second. I'm just gonna play this just so I can put something there for my people to work on, and then just 1 second, okay?